City Commission meeting to order. The clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Peck.
Here.
Commissioner Angel.
Here.
Commissioner Arpe.
Here.
Commissioner Jennings.
Here.
Commissioner Larson.
Here.
Would you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? This time, we'll open the meeting up for the Citizens Open Forum, which is a time that anyone from the community can come up. If there's any question or comment that they have, they could come up and make it now, as long as it does not pertain to anything on today's agenda. If there's no one here for that, we'll go ahead and move on to awards and proclamations.
Item 4.1, the day of November 1st, 2010, as Extra Mile Day in the City of Salina. Nancy Klostermeyer, the Volunteer Connection Executive Director, will read the proclamation.
Thank you. I have several of the partners from that Make a Difference Day effort with me, and I'm going to ask them to each stand as they're referenced in this proclamation. Whereas Salina, Kansas is a community that acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens, local businesses, and volunteer agencies collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Salina, Kansas is a community that encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas Salina, Kansas is a community that chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas Salina, Kansas acknowledges the mission of the Extra Mile America Foundation to create 100 extra mile cities and states in America, and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2010. And whereas Salina citizens volunteered on October 23rd for Make a Difference Day by removing debris from properties in North Salina, and whereas Reverend Johnny Curtis of the North Point Church, Jim Guile and Nancy Klostermeyer of the Volunteer Connection, Ramona Newsom and Andy Martin of the Salina Area United Way, Clay Thompson of Serving Salina Together, and Judy Irvin of the City of Salina Neighborhood Services volunteered their time and efforts to organize Make a Difference Day by contacting local citizens and encouraging them to clean up their property and recruiting volunteers and equipment needed to assist in picking up items left at the curb or on their property. And whereas organizations from the community, such as St. John's Military School, the Volunteer Connection, Serving Salina Together, Salina Area United Way, Salina Chamber of Commerce, City of Salina, Salina Regional Health Center, and North Central Kansas chapter of the American Red Cross put much effort and energy into cleaning up a 50-square block area in northern Salina. And whereas Smoky Hill Construction, Salina Area Iron and Metal, and other community businesses gave of their time, machinery, vehicles, and operating supplies to assist the local volunteers in the cleanup efforts. Now, therefore, I, Aaron G. Peck, Mayor of Salina, Kansas, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2010 to be Extra Mile Day and urge each individual in our community to take time on this day and throughout the following year to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge all those around who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, and world a better place. In witness whereof I have set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Salina, Kansas to be affixed. Aaron G. Peck, Mayor.
Thank you. This is certainly a tremendous effort on the part of many, and I applaud all the work that all of the volunteers put into this. In the proclamation itself, you outlined several specific things that went on. Is there any other comment or any other event that helped mark the occasion that you'd like to visit about?
Well, I just would like to mention that in addition to the huge North Salina cleanup effort, there were some other projects that occurred on that day. At Ashby House, members of the Phi Delta Theta fraternity from K-State Salina and members of St. Mary's Catholic Church with Father Peter did painting of the house. At Catholic Charities, members of the Knights of Columbus and some helpers from Community Corrections removed a fence in preparation for installing a new one. And the individuals from Community Corrections also helped at the Sunflower Adult Day Services right next door with some special projects they needed assistance. Members from First Covenant Church did some interior finish work at Salina Rescue Mission. And a number of youth from the Volunteer Connection made bowls and painted them as an ongoing effort for the Empty Bowl Project for Salina Emergency Aid Food Bank. So there was truly a community-wide effort on Make a Difference Day.
Yeah, sounds like a real difference was made.
And Judy Irvin, excuse me for taking so much time, but this was a big deal.
Please.
Judy has some results from that day to share.
Great.
It's difficult to be totally inclusive, but one of the things that we need to recognize is that all these items were put onto one property, basically at the corner of 4th and Otis, and we want to thank property owners Bouncer and Brenda Crowder for their hospitality and letting us have the immense dump there for a short period of time. And then we had some public works employees who thought they were coming out just to receive some hazardous waste, but they ended up receiving about 18.75 tons of items. So that's quite a lot of improvement in that area. So we wanted to recognize that, and also a lot of this was just the collaboration that happened. So we really do appreciate all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, and we certainly can't thank the volunteers enough who help make a difference in the community. Nancy or Judy, either one, I do have a signed copy of this proclamation if you'd like that. There are no public hearings or items scheduled for a certain time, so we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Item 6.1, approve the minutes of October 25th, 2010. Item 6.2, acceptance of public drainage easement dedications on Lot 2, Block 4 in the Airport Industrial Center subdivision. Item 6.3, authorize the mayor to sign a petition initiating the vacation of a 20-foot utility easement located in Lot 1, Block 1 of the Hurd Edition. Item 6.4, authorize the mayor to sign KDOT Form 1302, guaranteeing the city's ability to supplement funding for the East Magnolia Road project number 10-2808.
Is there any item that a commissioner would like to see removed from the consent agenda? If not, I'll accept a motion.
Mayor, I move we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. There's no development business. We'll move on to administration.
Item 8.1, second reading ordinance number 10-10,577, levying Salina Business Improvement District Number 1 service fees for 2011.
This ordinance was passed on first reading on October 25th. And since that time, no comments have been received. Is there any public comment on this today? If not, I will accept a motion.
Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance number 10-10577 on second reading. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance number 10-10577 on second reading. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Angel?
Aye.
Commissioner Arbkey?
Aye.
Commissioner Jennings?
Aye.
Commissioner Larson?
Aye.
Mayor Peck?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.2, consider a request to rename the Salina Municipal Golf Course to the Grand Prairie Public Golf Course.
Mr. Gage.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Quick background, in December of 2006, the City Commission approved our municipal facility naming guidelines, and we've attached those for your reference. Excuse me. On September 1st of this year, Bill Shepard, on behalf of the Cornerstone Development Group, submitted an application to rename the golf course to the Grand Prairie Golf Course. That was subsequently amended to be the Grand Prairie Public Golf Course. The request was submitted as a landmark type renaming request in accordance with the policy, and they also included in that a donation of $10,000 to offset or eliminate the cost of changing the name with things like letterhead and signage and things like that. After that meeting with the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, it was determined that the golf course the property had not been determined to be qualified for renaming. So we brought it back to you as a city commission, and on September 13th, you qualified that for renaming. So then it went back to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board on October 20th. And at that meeting, they did vote to recommend to you that the name be changed to the Grand Prairie Public Golf Course on a 3-to-1 vote. The next step, obviously, was to come back to the City Commission, and in the policy it provides 3 primary responsibilities. One is to review the verification as to compliance of the naming initiative and naming petition with the guidelines, and staff believes that they're in compliance with the policy. Review the merits of the naming initiative and supporting documentation, and take action regarding the facility naming, including but not limited to approval, denial, amendment of the request, postponement, whatever action you feel would be deemed necessary. This is one where you do have full discretion. You're not bound just because they followed the process and the guidelines. You can do really whatever you'd like to do. We did look to see if we felt that the $10,000 was enough to cover the cost of in essence, the rebranding of it. And we felt that if we don't have new ideas to do things much differently, that when it was added up, that the $10,000 is sufficient to do that. It's noted too that the name Grand Prairie would be in coordination with the subdivision that's being developed adjacent to the golf course as well, and I think that continuity was something that was appealing to the applicant. Just a couple other quick points. One thing is, as we mentioned to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, that we don't think the policy prohibits the Commission from considering any slight variations. That was a discussion when the word public was added to the name with the discussions in front of the Park and Rec Advisory Board. And also, you really, again, with the discretion, you could negotiate other aspects of that if you choose to do that. If that's where you'd like to go, you could do that. You could consider other names, but in essence, the policy likes a name to be generated from some form of a process included in the policy. So you could say, well, we want to leave it qualified for renaming. For whatever reason, you could say, we don't like this name, but we want it renamed. And then we could help you with whatever that process would be to go through a broader-based renaming, type process in the community. So it's really kind of up to what you'd want to do with that. If you felt that it needed a new name, but you didn't like that name. From a staff perspective, the name doesn't really affect the daily operations, the fiscal condition, or any of those related factors. And usually, when we're given recommendations, we'll try to base it on those types of things. It could be public safety, financial condition, whatever. This really doesn't have that with it, so it's a little difficult for us to give you a kind of a quick and dirty recommendation one way or another, because it's truly a preferential issue. One thing that I would say is, and others may disagree, and that's okay, but we don't believe that the naming would change the number of rounds played. The reason is sometimes you'll see a course that may be in disrepair for some years, and someone really puts an investment into it, and part of that is to rebrand it and then reintroduce it to the public. And in that case, it may actually be helpful. Quite honestly, we believe our course has a pretty positive reputation, and I've heard positive comments from people who have played it. So I don't know that you're in that situation where someone could just say, well, we think it'll increase rounds played. The other side is I don't know that it would decrease rounds played. I think probably, if anything, it's a neutral. But quite honestly, that's hard to predict, and no one really knows for sure. So with that, we've given you some options, and this really doesn't relate to the strategic plan. And again, if the $10,000 is adequate, we don't really believe there's a fiscal impact at this point. But the options provided are to rename the Salina Municipal Golf Course to the Grand Prairie Public Golf Course, or 2, to rename the Salina Municipal Golf Course to a slightly modified version of the Grand Prairie Public Golf Course, if you wish to do that, on the assumption that the modification doesn't create a substantial change, and the applicant's fine with that as well. 3, obviously, do not rename the Salina Municipal Golf Course at this time if you're comfortable that name's sufficient and there's no reason to consider a different name. I'd be happy to answer questions. I know the applicant is here, so is Mike Hargrave, our interim golf course manager. And I think obviously you have quite a few folks who might want to give you some input. We have tried to include any written correspondence in your packet, so you have that as well. So I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Is there questions of staff?
Jason, I have a quick question. Just refresh my memory on this because I didn't see it anywhere unless I just read right over it. When we adopted the resolution to declare it a qualified facility, how long does it stay qualified?
I believe until you would choose to disqualify it, but actually I probably need to look in the facility guidelines to make sure.
Well, you see, and I thought I read through that, and I like I said, I must have just read right over that. So my question on that is, if this is not renamed, it just stays, it stays as a qualified facility until somebody else down the line in a year or two or whenever decides that they want to go through the criteria to select a name. Is that correct?
Yeah, and Commissioner, I did find on page 3, section 4 under the guidelines, on subsection 3, it talks about the qualification. It does say once a formal action regarding the qualified status of a municipal facility has been taken by the Commission, a change in designation shall not be considered for at least 1 calendar year. So the policy presumes that once you qualify it, it's officially qualified for at least a year, and that you wouldn't decide to, in essence, disqualify it until at least a year has passed. But you
Okay.
don't have to rename it. It just makes it eligible on the list for properties that the city owns. It could be renamed.
So if in 5 years someone comes up and goes through all the criteria to rename it after a Salina philanthropist or whatever, it still remains a qualified facility?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it just says to disqualify, you need to wait a year. But if you don't take
Okay.
any action, it would still be qualified in 5
Okay.
years.
So if tomorrow somebody wanted to name the Salina Public Library, is that considered a qualified facility as of right now?
Not sure we'd have the ability to rename that. That's maybe a different question. But if you used a different facility, say our Public Works facility,
Okay.
that would be a good example. No, because we did not pre-qualify all the facilities, which is why you had to come back and why there was confusion on the golf course. You would actually have to take action first just to qualify, say, the Public Works building to be named, and then you'd go through the actual process of the naming.
Do we have any other buildings that have not been qualified that could be?
Actually, the only two you have the Eric Stein stage, which was qualified because that's really what prompted the process, and so we qualified that and then went through that renaming, and then the golf course because of this most recent action. So all the rest of the facilities would today considered to not be qualified unless the Commission took action to qualify them
Okay.
first.
Okay, I'm following you
Yeah.
now. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions? Is there any public comment?
I happen to be Bob Holston, president of the Salina Municipal Senior Men's Golf Association, and I just wish to make a statement on it. I'm here to speak on behalf of the 180 members of on the request for the name change for Salina Municipal Golf Course, or commonly called as the Muni. We have a few points that we'd like to call for rejection of this name change. We were asked for an input into the proposed change to get a feedback from the local golfers. On August 5th, 2010, our Seniors Thursday Morning League were asked to vote on the question about the name change. We had about 96 golfers that were present to vote on the name change. No one voted in favor of the name change. Results were emailed to Steve Snyder. There have been several other unofficial polls indicating no to the name change. The Muni already has a reputation and prestige across the state as a fine municipal golf course. It has several golfing events from very large group, as well as various Kansas championships for youth and adults. To change the name of the Muni would cause it to lose its popular ID. That has been taking a lot of years to build up. The name change would create a kind of a false perception that a golf course and the development or joint ownership are connected by something other than land. The development is a private ownership and the municipal golf course is city owned. You need a clear separation so there's no doubt that the golf course is city owned. We are very proud of the compliments from our out-of-towners and those from out of state that come to play our course. They specifically stop in Salina to play the Muni on the return trip. The name of the Salina Golf Course belongs to the golfers of Salina, and we're proud of it, and we'd like to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments? Well, this would be the only golf issue that we've ever had with one person getting up to talk.
John Ray, 2267 Leland Way. Can't let that challenge go. I just have to second what Bob has told you. There's no advantage to the city or the golfers or the golf course in changing the name. The course does have a very fine reputation and is well known as the Salina Municipal Golf Course. It should stay that way.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, I'll bring this back to the commission.
Mayor,
just
I'd like to make a motion.
Excuse me, real
Go
quick.
ahead.
There's just a quick comment that I didn't mention before. I mentioned Mark Hargrave was here, but Steve Hardesty is also here. I didn't see him earlier, so if you have a technical question, just so you know.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we do not rename the Salina Municipal Golf Course at this time.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we do not rename the Salina Municipal Golf Course at this time. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Is there any further business?
Mayor, I move to recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss with legal counsel matters subject to the attorney-client privilege, for the reason that public discussion of those matters would waive the privilege and adversely affect the city's interest in the matters, and reconvene at 4:40 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we recess into executive session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Do we expect any action?
We do not.
We're in executive session.
I've never met you. I'm Bill Shipper. Yeah. He followed me around helping out. In fact, I need to meet with you. I live in. Mike and I, when we got final inspection, 2.5 years. It's on the list of. It has some spring insulation at the joists. And at one time,